I want to talk about this. You unfriended me.
I did.
Why?
I unfriended.
This is a very special episode.
I unfriended a lot of people.
Why?
I also
How could you do that to me?
Right. I was a big jerk online until maybe about 5 months ago, actually.
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy.
Welcome to Living with Jonathan and Katy. I'm Katy French, and I love a big mug.
I'm Jonathan CERDA-ROWELL, and I'm fine with a small mug as long as it knows what to do.
As long as it knows how to hold my liquid. I'm sorry I said that.
What's been going on with you, Katy?
Literally, I feel like I had a new baby, but it's just all I ever talk about is my new apartment.
It's just you and the apartment.
Yeah, it truly is. But I've been on a rug journey.
Is this code for lesbianism? That was a cheap joke, but I had to take it, y'all.
This is totally related to the theme because we're talking to Rob and Tran, who's trans.
Yes.
And it's about identity and your search for identity. And right now I am searching for the perfect rug. Anytime you move into a new place, you always just have to get you might have had a bookcase, but it doesn't fit there anymore. So
right.
I've just accepted that. And I buy like a new big like apartment thing, like one a month,
yeah.
You know? So I just got my bar cart today. It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
This beautiful bar cart. You know what I do love about this new apartment, Katy? I mean, for the listeners, we mentioned it. It's a Palm Springs Oasis abode, but in the middle of LA. We don't have to worry about roaches anymore. Really, like, I've not seen a single roach while I've been here, whereas like when I stayed at your old one, that was a problem.
Yeah, and I did get it fumigated a lot, but it was like summertime. They like to summer in Little Armenia is what I learned.
Yes.
But yeah, not a problem here. So
your Airbnb was cheap enough for them. So
right.
Yeah.
I love a budget. But so I'm getting close to like, I've just kept a master list of everything I want and like slowly been working through it. So I'm like very almost down to, well, then again, I've just finished the front rooms. Then I'm going to work on the bedroom.
I feel like you've been done with this apartment for a while, but there's like new things that start appearing. It's like slowly morphing into its like fully realized form.
My friend Jicky, shout out to Jicky. She's a home editor.
Yeah.
And she's who I like message with when I'm like, am I crazy for this decor? You know?
Yeah.
And she was like, I was messaging her because I was like, we had this girls' weekend and we were trying to find this rug that was it was like the rug I wanted and it was in a picture, but like with nothing, like how do you find this rug,
right.
You know? And so there were 4 women each like on a computer or technical device searching for this rug like on a Saturday night. Like It was like the mystery rug. And I don't know how I found it, but I actually found it.
Really?
Like I couldn't even reverse Google image search, but I just was like,
yeah,
I found it, ordered it, hated it. And so I was like, Jakey, oh, I'm so dumb for like returning it. And then she was like, it's called the evolution of decor. So like you get you lay a base,
yes,
and then you contour basically.
Nike, my boyfriend, ordered a rug, and it's the rug that we have, but the same thing happened to him. He really loved it in the picture. We unfurled it, and it was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But we just kept it because we couldn't go on. We were, we just had gotten a new couch. We were just like, we can't keep ordering new shit. So
no, totally. And sometimes you're like, that's why the rug I have here is cute, but it'll be destroyed very shortly because it's like white,
right,
plush, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I knew even when I bought it, it was like going. You know what? This rug was like going out with a really hot guy. Like I go, you're so hot. Like, and this is gonna be great for like 6 months, and then after that. It's just going to be, you're going to be miserable or you're going to be trash and we're going to be done. Yeah. That's how I feel about my white shag rug. I mean, that's really my lifestyle. What have you been up to, Jonathan?
I recently attended the first annual edition of Spanish Club.
Oh, Spanish Club. The Spanish LA Comic Spanish Club?
Yes. So it's not just for LA Comics, but it's basically it's just like a Latino run Spanish club for mostly Latinos who are in the LA comedy scene and then other Latinos that they know who get together and just like speak in Spanish and practice their Spanish. And I won't out the comedian who started it because I don't know if he wants me to like say it on a podcast.
Right, you guys, this is a very VIP group as well, so don't be trying to get into Spanish Club.
It's a hot ticket, you know. If you can get in. But yeah, it's basically for Latinos to become better at Spanish, and it was great. We had our first one, and I brought my mom with me, who is
so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute, and of course, she was very kind for coming because, as you know, she's from Mexico and she is fluent in Spanish. That's her first language. but she basically came to kind of like be the reference point for everyone to like, are we saying this
The
correct?
maestra.
Yeah, la maestra. And then it was just great. And everyone was at different levels, but we had like a system and we went around and we like told stories, and it was very much like, it was fun. It was like, it was very much like, we would talk in Spanish, and then of course, then we would like go on rants about like, Latino things, and then like people would be like, yes, that's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, it was very beautiful. It was very fun. And I hope more people come. There was Mexican food there. It was in Echo Park. It was just great. It was just a fun time.
I love you guys building comunidad.
Yeah.
And I have been doing the community a favor by not attending.
No, but it is open to non-Latinos too. I know that there were some non-Latinos invited. It's just none of them showed up.
Wow. What allies.
I know.
Colonialism.
But honestly, that's fine, because most of the people who did show up, it was a small group, but most of the people who did show up, because they were Latino, already had some type of familiarity with, like, even though we were at different levels, it had familiarity with Spanish in some way. So there wasn't like, although I guess a lot of the white people who were invited were like Cali people, so they would probably have some familiarity, but yeah.
Was there a format? Like, did you answer questions, or was it like...
Yeah, there was like a whole sheet of questions in Spanish, and we all went around and answered in Spanish.
Oh, cute.
So that's what it is. And, as we kept going around, we like would elaborate more with the answers and stuff. And then my mom would like correct me if I made a mistake, or like, or if someone else made a mistake, that person would correct the other person. Like, it was just great. It was cool. I'm just hoping it becomes just this like big stand and deliver type Edward James Olmos type thing, where it's like all these Latinos coming to learn Spanish, and then we all can just like go out, and any Latinos who ever felt like their Spanish wasn't good enough, whether they didn't speak anything at all, or whether it was like just broken or like only conversational. I hope like one day, like, you get something out of it, and like they felt like they could go out and stunt,
Well, when you're ready to take your AP test, just call Senora Garner, my mother. She has a high pass rate.
Right.
But
she better not be teaching any vosotros or anything from Spain.
Any país? No, país. No, I don't know.
Vosotros, the tense
That's
from
the one.
Spain. Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy that you are on the path to connecting with your true identity.
I mean, girl, I've been connected.
You've been on connecting.
I've been connected. This is just more about, the community, honestly.
Yeah, going full on.
That just brings us to the episode that we recorded, which I think is probably one of our favorite episodes. I didn't tell you guys this, but during the interview, I did cry.
You did?
Yes, but I didn't say anything because Robin, she was talking, and I didn't want to be like, I'm crying now. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say, this is our first episode where someone cried.
Yes.
And the first one that I didn't make them cry.
Right.
And that is rare. So I actually felt, she had texted me afterwards and was like, oh, I don't know, what's that a lot? And I'm like, honey, I love when people cry in my presence.
Oh, and this is not like a very special episode. This is not like that. Robin, it was very, very funny. She was absolutely great. She was hilarious. But,
it's real shit.
It's real shit. So listen to this episode. If you want to hear about from a great comedian who opens for Margaret Cho, who's been on Comedy Central, who's been on Hulu, has her own special.
Yeah, follow her, watch her stuff. She's hilarious.
She's absolutely hilarious. Guys, we went really far. We flew to the West Side for this.
That's dedication.
This is how much we do like
we basically
Robin
crossed
Tran's
a border.
comedy, is that we crossed the border onto the West Side for this bitch.
All right, guys, please enjoy our interview with Robin Tran.
Yes.
I came out to my mom a couple years ago, and that was really, really hard, I'm sorry. I mean, emotionally it was hard, but I mean more logistically, because she doesn't speak any English, and I don't really speak Vietnamese, so it was like just literally logistically difficult to come out to my mom. Like, we're sitting in the car, and one day I just go, Mom, in Vietnam, do they have people born boy, brain, girl? And she goes, what? Born boy, brain, girl. And she goes, okay, I don't know. Sometime. I go, okay, me, that. And she goes, no. I go, yes, Mom. She goes, no, you not girl, you boy. And I'm like, Mom, boy, girl. And she goes, no, you boy, you lucky, because boy is good and girl is bad. And I go, why? And she goes, I don't know. This is going on for like 45 minutes. Born, boy, break. You're just yelling at each other. And then eventually I get through to her a little bit and she goes, okay, I understand, but to me, I still see you as boy. And I go, okay, Mom, you see me as boy. I sad. I kill myself. And she goes, oh, you girl. I'm like, yes, Mom. I'm girl.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Sluts. We are here with an old friend of mine who is very funny, very talented writer, thought leader. What else?
Stand-up comedian.
Stand-up comedian, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I
Probably should have led with that.
I actually am more inspiring than funny. So.
Yeah. Oh, blogger.
Like when people blogger, yes.
Not. That's a joke. That's not true.
Yeah.
You have seen her on Comedy Central's Roast Battle, her comedy special, Comedy Invasion on Hulu, Netflix, and other things. Please welcome Robin Tran.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank
course.
you for having the strength to be here today to share your journey. It's really important. For people who don't know, so Robin and I have been doing comedy. We started in Orange County together.
Yeah.
And I have a huge complaint that I've always wanted to address with you.
Sure, of course.
Which is that our first show at the Brea, I don't know if it was yours, I think it was my first show at the Brea Improv.
Uh-huh.
It was a showcase show, and it was like some shady booker with a ponytail.
I remember this.
And it was very much like, flyer, get all your friends to come out. Okay, and somehow between my friends and my coworkers, I had like 42 people show up for my first show.
I remember this.
And the thing was that whichever comic brought the most got $75.
Yes.
Okay, and Robin had like 43, but she swooped, you freaking poached two of mine because my friends were actually, I didn't know her coworkers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
So they were like, whose guest list song you're on? And they were like, oh, I don't know. Like, is it?
They just kind of did. They just went with whatever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so Robin won the money. And I was like, motherfucker, you stole my friends.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That was back in the day when I had friends. Oh yeah. Throwback. Was it? It's not Thursday yet, but
Yeah, could you guys get, and I'm not talking about fans or audience members, could you get 43 people of close friends to come out to shows now?
no.
I
Yeah.
was thinking about that the other day. I was like, no, nor would I want them to.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? We got taken advantage of because like I didn't realize till later on that like bringing out your friends is like a credit card. You know,
Right.
like you should ask them to come to like your big shows, you know. But
Right.
when you first start, you're like, oh my god, this is my big break. I'm gonna invite every friend I have to this one show,
In a bar.
and then it gets like 50 whatever people I had. I think the next show I had like 40 some other people, like 3 shows in a row.
Yeah.
And then by the fourth one, I had like 5 people come out. Like I'm not gonna see you 4 months in a row. Like are you out of your
Yeah.
mind? And now I don't really have friends anymore
Yeah.
Because
like, it's
you
just
made
like
them
this
to go
what
see your
happened.
comedy?
Yeah, exactly.
It was, yeah, I will never forget. And I just remember being like devastated that I was like, $75 was mine. Oh, one last thing about that booker. He had a ponytail. That matters because he was like, afterwards trying to tell me he would like rep me or something. And I was
Oh,
like,
God.
for what? Like,
That sounds
At that
really-
point, did you understand what that meant?
no, I did, but I was
Okay.
like, in what world would you rep me? You know what I mean?
He
was
just
so
like,
shady.
I think I could just get opportunities for you. And like, he was just like, you know, you're young, you're pretty, like, just so
Oh.
creepy.
Oh, he was
God.
trying to Marvelous Miss Maisel you. He
Yes,
wanted to like,
exactly.
he's like, I think I'm a manager now.
Yeah.
And then he just starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know what? When I first came out, I don't really dress up as much anymore. But when I first came out, I encountered that for the first time where I'm like, I think he's being nice. I don't want to be presumptuous, but that was a weird thing to say. I had like, I was like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and also like no one, but when I was, you know, it was Robert, no one ever hit on me ever, you know, except
Yeah.
for like the few times it happened. It's like, well, I'm with her for 8 years now, you know, like,
Right.
But like, yeah, this one guy messaged me and we were friends from before and he was like, you know, we should write together. We should do open mics together.
Ooh,
I'm
you
like,
got the write
that's-
together line.
I got right together. I got that. And then I was like, okay, you know, don't presume anything. He's just
Right.
being nice. And then he goes like, well, I know I'm just not as funny or cute as you. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say to somebody. Like, if you just said, "Hey, look, can I give you a compliment? I think you're really nice looking now." Like I was like, "Okay, whatever." But it was like, you want to hang out and you're calling me cute? Okay, like it doesn't feel unsafe, but it feels like I kind of don't want to see you for a while. Like,
Yeah.
like, like, and I don't think he's a creepy guy. I just think like I'm not used to dealing with those awkward.
Yeah.
Is this a compliment or like? You don't want to be arrogant, right?
Right. I know. Same.
But,
But that was the day you became a female comedian.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, just a lot of people want to write with me.
Yeah.
So,
It's like not my fault, guys. Like so many people want to write with me.
That's what seems. I mean, I am looking at it from the outside, but it does seem insulting because they're mixing this like you're cute, I think you're beautiful with I also think you're talented, and
Right.
it's like yeah, but those actually can't be mixed because it seems like one is being like obsequious, like it's like one thing is dishonest here,
Right.
You
Yes.
know,
Right.
I'm not that hot. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if people don't know, but we are having you on today to talk because you're trans.
Yeah. I do this joke on every podcast, by the way,
Yes.
which is that being trans is great for audio.
Oh,
So we're confused. Like, come out as what? Are you gay? Well, yeah, but not in the way that you think. So
that is so funny. Well, I say that when people are like, oh, what was it like coming up as a comedian in Orange County? I always say there were like 7 girls.
Yeah.
And then now there's 8.
Oh, thank you.
'Cause
Yeah,
Robin
right.
was with us all along. We
yeah,
just didn't
I was.
know.
Yeah. I always felt like my relationship with women, it was always like, I don't know, this is gonna sound stereotypical, but like it always felt like 2 girls talking instead of a guy and a girl. Like I
Yeah.
remember like for my whole life, my female friends like from high school and junior high would say things like, I don't know why, but when I talk to you, it feels different. Like I don't like you romantically, but I like you more than a friend. But like I don't know why, and also like I connect with you on a deeper emotional level that guys don't have. And so it was like, all this like it makes sense now.
Yeah.
I was just emailing my friend Angela. We used to talk all the time, and she used to be like, "Hey, don't take this the wrong way, but you're like my female friend." And I'd be like, "How dare you? I'm a man."
Yeah.
Like I took that as like it just basically meant like I'll never fuck you. Like that's how
Yeah.
you take it as a guy.
Of course.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I can be out now. It's a lot more comfortable. I feel a lot more comfortable like with women, and it was really tough even for me for a while. Like just like. So many guys, and that male energy before open mics when everyone stands in a circle and it's this constant riffing. Like,
Yes.
oh my god,
Aggressive
can you guys like chill out? Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember my jokes. Like, do you
Yeah.
guys not care about comedy? You guys like lonely guys who just want to hang out with each other,
Yeah.
So,
And
I
get
always
the-
felt in those situations like I was back in the locker room about to get bullied.
oh my god, that's how. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
It's
So-
just so aggressive, and it's just so like obviously people are just like trying to swing their comedy dicks around, and it's
Yeah.
like
Can you guys clock out for a second? Like,
Yeah.
you're not. Yeah.
It's so funny because when I got so used to that, like that was like my comic brain trained to like come in at that level and like immediately see a guy and be like, "What's up, fucking loser?" Like, just,
No, I did the same- I did the
would
same
come
thing,
out like
right.
swinging, and then it was weird because when I moved to LA, there's like more like hipster sensitive guys,
Yes,
and then I'd be like,
yeah.
"Hi, I'm Katy. What's up, you loser?" And then they would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oh, that's not how we
We
interact."
talk
here."
about our emotions here, okay? This is LA. Yeah.
It was so weird. Well, I'll talk about we're gonna talk about your journey we're gonna do our Oprah special.
Oh, good. Okay. My journey.
I want to know like what type of snacks do trans people like? Like it's really important.
I just want to say, like, just right now on the record that everything I say represents all trans people. That I am the gatekeeper of all things trans.
of every person.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll talk about when I first met you. You were presenting as male. You were Robert at the
Yeah,
time,
right.
And I think we've talked about before. You were like almost men's rights activist.
I was so close to
level.
being
like
incel.
the worst
right?
of like OC dude, like fucking bit, like
Yeah.
And but I always really liked you because you were funny, and I was even telling Jonathan that at the time, like you were really good because you would make me laugh at stuff that annoyed me,
Right.
And like that I was pissed that you were
Yes,
saying.
I remember
but you
doing
were
that.
that talented.
Oh,
Bill
thank you.
Burr level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I didn't know anything about your like gender dysphoria. I didn't know about anything like that.
Right.
I just knew you as a guy who seemed like, or like you would come to me and to ask me about girl advice or whatever, you
Yes.
know? And that was all I knew. And then I feel like how many years into comedy did you transition?
3.
3, just 3. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe less than 3.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like, I don't know if you went away for a while or like whatever. And then you had like made the announcement kind of.
Right.
And that was like, I don't know that I wasn't surprised. I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
It made me make more sense of like, cause you had also had like a lot of just emotional turmoil and
did.
frustration and like mental issues. I mean,
Oh yeah, a ton. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. They made this can make sense of why you were like so having such a hard time.
Yeah. I also I couldn't look at anyone in the eyes until I came out. So it was 27, 28 years of just like looking down, looking away,
Looking at boobs.
Yeah, you're looking at boobs. Yeah, just looking at girls. I wish I had those. No. I remember. Yeah, like I was really miserable, men's rights activisty, and just like I could never look at people in the eyes because I like felt like, what if they see something about me that they'll figure out, even though I didn't know what that thing was.
Yeah,
I didn't even really make sense of saying it out loud. But yeah, I do remember that period, talking to you a lot about girls. I always ask you about girl advice, and I ask other people too, and they would tell me things like, if you just treat them like people, they'll like you. And I'm like, what? You fucking liar. It's because you're a tall white guy, or whatever.
Were you at that time, like when you say men's rights activist, like, I mean, it was in your comedy, but like, were you like on message boards, or were you just like,
no.
or was that just kind of your worldview?
Kind of. I was like a big Opie and Anthony fan, so it's the same thing as being a men's rights activist.
Yeah. My boyfriend is a big men's rights activist. And
Yeah.
all I hear all day long is old O&A episodes.
Old O&A.
It is so triggering to me. Like literally, and that was the thing too. Like if I would go to Mike's, you just hear like on O&A, and I'm like, fucking shut up.
Yeah, yeah.
O&A is their drag race. You know?
Yeah, it's so true.
It's exhausting.
I mean, some of my biggest laughs ever still are some of those shows, but I also think like it did like, it makes you aware of certain things, because like, like when you hear media, it informs you, but you don't realize it. And the thing about O&A is that there was always a sense of like, everyone is in the media, but we're not. We're like the cool dudes, It's like, so you think that they're being objective.
Yeah.
And it teaches you to like women are this and that, and like we're the only ones who are brave enough to say what is the truth about women, And I felt all this stuff until it was October of 2012, and I remember I was in the car and I was complaining about a girl, and somebody just said something in the car, like it was my friend Andy, was like, aren't you just sick of being miserable? It was something like that, and I don't know why, but it just like, yeah, I kind of do want to change. Like, I don't know what to do. And I think someone was like, oh, read this, self-help book. And it was, feeling, I don't know if you remember, I went through this whole self-help cognitive behavioral therapy phase. So I started writing, and I remember the moment there was an empathy exercise. I'd never heard of empathy before. I knew
Wow.
I knew what sympathy was. I knew what sympathy, but empathy was completely new, because I thought empathy is a feeling, right? And they're like, no, empathy is an exercise, right? So like as a guy, you don't get taught empathy because it's, gay or whatever, right? And so like it was asking me to write an essay from the perspective of somebody I hated about me. And I wrote it from my ex's perspective, because I hated my ex. And as I'm writing this, I just thought like, wait, what did I have to offer her except for I like you a lot? How dare you not like me? Like if I were her, I would also not like me. And so like a light switch, it was like flipped in my head, and I was like, wow. And I thought about every other girl in my life that I had like been rejected by or whatever, and it was like, well, I didn't try to be a better person. I tried to like use them to make me feel better, and girls can sense that. So why don't I build myself up? And if I do that, maybe girls will like me. So I went through like this whole apology tour. I like called a bunch of girls from my past, like, hey, look, I know I was being a dick, but I'm really sorry about that. And that was the same month that I asked Kate out.
Oh, wow.
And I asked her out, and it was like,
Kate Gary.
yeah, Kate Gary, my girlfriend. Yeah. And I remember like I did that annoying thing that guys do, which is like, hey, you want to go out? I mean, I'm just kidding, unless you're not kidding.
Yeah.
That whole fucking thing, I did that for so long. And so when I asked out Kate for real, she was like shocked. And I was like, yeah, like not everything has to be a joke. Yeah, I'm serious. Like, you don't have to say yes, but, and then she went through like this whole like, oh, I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to do this and that. And I don't think it's a good idea. And I just like, look, I don't like you as much as you think I do. Just can we, do you want to have, and then she laughed. And then, yeah, we had an amazing first date. And she told me to like, go out there and explore your options, because she didn't want to be like the only one in my life. And I actually did date around for a while. Like, and all it took was like a little bit of empathy. That's all it took. And all of a sudden, like, people were interested in me.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I mean, I know that we joked about this being like an Oprah style special, but that is actually something that's really great advice for many, many people, especially in our industry, and especially like people who are affected by toxic masculinity, whether they're men or
Right.
women.
Yeah.
Is to exercise empathy.
Right? Yeah. I always try to like, whenever it's so frustrating for me to see like men's rights activists and like and I don't want to defend them, and I don't defend them, but whenever I try to like just tell people like this is where they're coming from, and I hear like, well, women go like, well, we get murdered, and I'm like, well, I know, it's worse. I'm just saying like, you have to like know where they're coming from and what they're missing, right? So we should teach them empathy, and maybe it'll help some of them. But the second they actually do something, then it's like, well, fuck them, you know, like,
Right.
you know, like it's one thing to think those things. And I think you can stop it before then, but like the second they like hit a woman for real, then it's like, okay, like
Yeah.
what you're thinking does not justify your bad behavior. But I do wish that we can just talk about some of the things that are hard about being a man.
Yeah.
One of them, by the way, is that it is way lonelier to be a guy than a girl in my
I think
experience.
that's very true.
So it's so lonely to be a guy. And again, whenever I bring that up, women will get mad at me and go like, well, yeah, but I'm lonely too. When I'm in a room full of people, I feel lonely. It's like, well, it's different, okay? Like, I've been lonely by myself, and it sucks way worse. Like,
Yeah.
I've been alone by myself on Thanksgiving, just like in a dark room, just eating a frozen meal. I think that's a lot different than like you're at a party and you don't feel like you fit in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish I could talk about this kind of stuff without like a defensive, like, we have it worse. Like, I know you have it worse.
That's that's what's so unusual about you, I think, or interesting, that you went from just like
Yeah.
the most extreme to the most
I
extreme,
did.
which is so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
But that gives you an incredible amount of perspective on like quote behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
And I do agree. Like I am a very like approach people with empathy. You do need to understand them, even with like white supremacists, all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't, like screaming at people, it doesn't work, you
Yeah.
know, and like scolding them in, it reinforces shame and anger and makes them turn more to the dark
Yes,
side.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I am a very radical compassion person, but it is so interesting when like within your own psyche, you've gone from one to the other.
Yeah, I've experienced basically like all the different ranges of who you can be as a person, and like just having to figure out who I am, like without just like, you know, like this kind of pendulum that keeps swinging back and forth. And yeah, I think I'm settling into who I am now, and I'm just not like, I guess since I've experienced all of it, I don't really think about it anymore. Like I don't really think existentially like I used to. It's just more like trusting myself to like not do a bad thing or not to think a bad thing, and if I do, then someone can just tell me and then I can stop.
Yeah.
You know, but I think a lot of it I was just overthinking everything all the time. Like,
What made you pull the trigger on, I mean, very briefly, I mean, again, like we don't have to like Oprah it, but like what made you realize you were trans?
oh
And
my
when
god.
did you
Oh,
realize,
God,
like-
okay. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this part shorter, as short as possible. But there is a professional wrestler that is like my hero, and I would try to make this short. But basically, the company was trying to hold him back in real life, like not
Okay.
storyline wise, and the fans would just reject it. They would just keep cheering him, and the more they cheered him, the more the company would bring him down. So they finally bring him back, and there's a match. I'm bringing my friends over, and he gets eliminated like real quick, and it just the fans just like kind of shut down. They boo the rest of the show. They chant, "We want refunds," and it broke my heart, and I didn't know why. For like a week, I guess it was I wouldn't stop crying, and it was like a stupid wrestling match. I'm like, why do I care so much? And then Kate goes like, why are you so sad? And I just said like, because they didn't like him because of the way he looked, and he didn't look the way society wanted him to look.
Who was this?
This guy
wrestler?
his name is Daniel Bryan. He's one of my heroes. Like,
What does he
he's
look like?
He's a short guy. Like, he's short. He doesn't look like he can hurt anybody, but he also happens to be like the greatest wrestler in the entire world. You know, and I don't know. I know this sounds arrogant, but I kind of really relate to that. Like, I don't look like I would be good at what I'm good at, and so like that whole feeling of like this guy doesn't belong stayed with me. And then I was on some antidepressants, and it like triggered like some euphoria. And I was in my car, and I listened to like it was called Science versus Romance by Ryle Kiley, and I just like I for the first time I just kind of sang it instead of quietly singing it to myself. I just sang it loudly, and that was like the moment like my whole like my life flashed before my eyes, and I just remembered like, yeah, I did wear makeup in pink when I was like 4 years old, you know, and I did like jewelry a lot, and I know there's more to being a girl than that, of course, you know, but I was like, why did I suppress like 20 years of my life? Like, I used a lot of like, whenever my female friends would like give me a purse to hold on to, I would like just secretly like really, oh, I can hold your purse for longer. Like, there were these weird moments, you know, and as a kid, there were like these McDonald's like Disney CDs for $5, and I never saw Little Mermaid, but I heard that part of that world, or part of your world, by, you know, Little Mermaid, and I knew all the lyrics to it, even though I never saw the movie. And I listened to it on repeat all day, and for some reason it would just really resonate with me, but I would hide it from everybody.
Wow.
And it was that moment, like, just,
And you're an only child?
No, I have a sister.
Oh, older, or younger.
Older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was that moment, and I just pulled over, and I just said it out loud because there was a lot of trans people in the news, and I just went, I think I'm meant to be a woman. Not, I am a woman. I think I'm meant to be a woman, and yeah, I cried for like half an hour, and I was shaking, and it was like the most I ever cried in my whole life, and then
And that was for 1/2 hour.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
that's not
just
a lot
so
of time
I know
for how much was
it was just a
bottled up.
lot of crying, and then I clocked back into work. It was
you
like
were
in
like,
the middle of a work day, and
Well,
I was
that's a crazy lunch break.
yeah.
When you realized.
And then and I was slow at work, and I just I messaged Kate that I'm a woman. I told her, I told Evan, and then I told Nathan, and these are all comedy friends, and and my girlfriend, and then yeah, I just I think I'm just gonna put it on Facebook. That's how I deal with everything, And I remember when I posted it, I got a lot more support than I thought I would. I also got unfriended by 10 people.
And I want to talk
Wow.
about this. You unfriended me.
I did.
Why?
I unfriended.
This is a very special episode.
I unfriended a lot of people.
Why?
I also blocked
How could
a
you
lot.
do that to me?
Right. I was a big jerk online until maybe about 5 months ago, actually. So
That's when you refriended me.
I'm still
did,
a
yeah.
proponent of blocking people. I'm the biggest blocker.
Blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why did you betray me?
I don't remember. I
And
have
to be honest, I didn't notice until you told me personally. You go, I unfriended you. Right?
yeah. I went through this.
And that's how I was like, you are a bitch at heart.
I unfriended so many people during that period because I would just think about I bet you this person hates me because of this. You kind of create a scenario in your head.
Yeah, I
that
think you
didn't
told me
even
that you felt like
exist.
I wasn't a support or that something, but I was like,
I remember when I first came out, I was hypersensitive to transphobia, and I was looking for it at places that it wasn't really there.
well, my act was very transphobic at the time.
It is,
That's all
yeah.
I talked about. I'm kidding.
You're like, you're not a real woman unless
I said
I have a body of a real woman. Was one of Katie's.
that was my iconic bit.
Yeah,
I got the body.
No, but
Tail and horns.
tail and horns, yeah.
Yeah, that was okay. So when I first came out, I don't tell people this part very often, but I for 2 days I was really the gender euphoria and all that stuff, and then I started going, okay, what if this is a fluke, right? What if I, I just came out in front of everyone and then Kate would be like, come on, let's go shopping this weekend. I would put it off for 3 weeks, and I was like, you know what? It's a phase. I'm just gonna not go on Facebook for a while and just hopefully everyone forgot, And then so they're like, no, let's go clothes shopping. So 3 weeks later, she and my friend Jared took us to Westminster Mall in Garden Grove, and I was like, God, this is so embarrassing. I don't have any makeup on. I'm just I'm a guy basically still. And they were trying to pick out outfits for me, and I'm like, oh my God, I like this one. Let me just try this on. It was a pink top and striped skirt. And I put it on, I'm like, I hope I hate this. If I hate this, then
that's not real.
Then it's not real. Then I can just tell people, hey, I'm sorry, I support trans people, but I'm not one. And I put it on, and it was the first time I ever smiled in my entire life. And I remember I put it on, and I remember as I'm smiling in the mirror, I'm just thinking at the same time, well, my life is over. This is never going to be easy again. And I remember that feeling of personal joy and also this fear of systemic transphobia, you know? So that was really hard because it was hard during that period. Things have changed now. I'm not really dressed up anymore, but my mindset at the time was I'm so happy when I'm dressed up like a woman that I don't know if I can not do that every day at work anymore. And that's when I became the first trans person to come out at my workplace, and that was a whole ordeal, and I got a lot of transphobia there, and I just walked out of work one day. I've never had a job since then. It was traumatizing. But yeah, I remember a lot of I fucking hope that this is not real.
Yeah.
What were you doing at the time work wise?
I was just doing glorified data entry. I broke the record for how quickly I process documents there. It's just easy for me. I type really fast. And so there was no reason for them to want to get rid of me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird that all of a sudden oh, if you've been missing a lot of days. If you miss one more day, you were gonna fire you. And okay, that's weird. And just people would slam doors in my face. And I remember one guy. The thing that hurt the most was some people were outwardly mean, but there was one guy in particular that we talked every day. We joke around. I don't know his name. Coworker or something. You don't know their names. and he just completely ghosted me. Like, as in, he would just act like I wasn't there as a person. Like, that hurt the most. Like, it hurt more than people being mean to me. Is this guy acting like I'm not even in the same room as he was, and that was really hard.
The workplace discrimination, I think, is something that, I mean, people talk about it, but I actually don't think it gets talked about enough. My dad talks about a very almost exactly to the T thing that happened to a friend of his at the city of Pasadena.
Oh, real? Wow.
And they worked in city government. My dad's been retired since 2009, but this was back in like the early to mid 2000s. And it was this trans woman who came out as a trans woman, had a family, and of course started to come presenting as a woman, and that just like caused so much turmoil. And so she wasn't allowed to, so she had to present as a he there, and it was very painful, and eventually she left, and my dad would see her around Pasadena, truly presenting as her true self.
Right.
And she would tell him about coworkers that she would see around the city even after, would just the stuff that they would say, especially now that they were free from being like at work,
right,
was absolutely awful and horrible. And I mean, I don't really know what happened to her, but I hope she found happiness and peace. But hearing that was just kind of like, oh my God, like you can't even go to your job dressed the way you want to dress.
It was tough. Like looking back, I can't believe I did it. Like, it was such a bold move. I'm trying not to say brave. I hate that, but
but it was.
It really is.
I know.
I mean, honestly, when I really think about it, like, that has to be the bravest thing, because I think it's two reasons. It's like, some people, like, when I go out in public, nobody wants to draw attention to themselves.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, some people like to. They're like, they like to peacock or whatever.
Right.
But like, the minute you walk, or same with like being a black person, the minute you walk into the store, all eyes are on you. Like, that must be a very.
It was weird from going to being like an invisible guy to all of a sudden everyone is looking at me.
Yeah, the person in the room that everyone's looking at.
Yeah, and oh my God, one guy just like didn't even hide it. He would just like look at me like with this shocked look in his face, and I remember he was doing that. And then one of the coworkers like was like, "Hey," because he missed the day I came out. He came back like the next day, and so like he was like, and then someone had to like wave him around, like, go like, "Hey, you can't do that here."
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can't just like look at someone like that here. It was the treatment at work was so bad that I went to HR, and HR like really liked me, at that point, because I think there weren't very many trans women. I think I was the first trans woman they'd ever seen, and I think they took it as like a compliment, like, "Oh, you like women so much that you are one." I think that was kind of what she was thinking. And so she told me she kept trying to help, but like people above her told her not to help me, and she quit the job over it.
She did.
Like, she was like, "I'm done." Like, yeah, I didn't realize that she quit until a month later. Like, I asked somebody like, "Do you have her information?" Because I'm writing this article, and I texted her, and she was like, "Yeah, after that happened, I just like left. I don't do HR anymore." She did something else with her life.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, it was crazy. Like, that whole period, I've never talked about this stuff. I think I suppressed a lot of this. One day, the one of the execs of the whole company, like really, really high up, this woman comes to my cubicle, and she's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "All right, well, this is it. I'm gonna get fired," because like everyone's been treating me like shit. People like come by my cubicle usually, and they would just stare at me for a while. And I would look up, and they would stare at me for like 10 seconds, and then they would walk away. Happened all the time, every day. It happened like so many times. And she asked like, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Hey, I'm one of the execs, and I just want to say like, thank you so much for what you're doing." And she like whispers like, "This is a really fucking sexist company, and hopefully you being around you like this like will make it less sexist." I was like, "Oh, okay." And she like starts crying. She goes, "Can I hug you?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And she hugged me, and she like left. And then I would say that since the company was like 80% men, I got a lot of hatred, but like almost every woman there like treated me like better than I've ever been treated in my life. There just weren't very many of them, except for one woman who there was a bath. I was really afraid to use the women's bathroom. I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So I'd go to the bathroom like down the hall that no one went to. Like, I'd go out of my way to be out of everyone's way. But this is the same bathroom that one of the other women used. And so one day I'm in the bathroom washing my hands. She comes in, she sees me. She makes a sound. She kind of like slams the door. Like, I'm like, oh shit, I pissed her off, And then she goes to HR, and she goes, I'm really uncomfortable using the women's restroom with that guy in a dress, you know. And then they goes, oh well, well, you can use the bathroom downstairs then. Like,
they told her, yeah.
and she hated me for it. They took my side, you know, like yeah, almost every woman there was on my side, and I just like, man, I fucking love women, you know, like.
You finally love women.
No, yeah, like after being an MRA,
I
like
genuinely know.
Yeah, but it's just.
When you like, what was it like the first time you went out in public wearing what you wanted to wear?
Oh, it was terrifying.
Was it any part of it exhilarating?
Yeah. I was like, at the same time, like, you know, it felt like it was like a roller coaster of emotions. Like, it was like everything was very heightened. You know, the fear was heightened, the euphoria was heightened.
You're just very aware of
it.
Everything.
It was just very like a rush, you know. But I remember one of the first times I was dressed in public was in Las Vegas, actually.
Oh, perfect.
And,
I mean,
yeah, right.
In my mind, I just want to think that you were in like a rhinestone crop top halter.
It was a gold
in the tackiest cocktail wear, which is my dream.
Yeah. It was a gold sweater, like glittery and stuff.
Were you there for stand up?
Oh no, I was just there for like, it was like a business. I think it was Kate's company or something like that. But I remember I went into a store and there were like little kids in the store and they were looking at me and talking to their mom, and I felt like the deepest sense of shame. And I was like, oh, because I'm so selfish that when I dress like this, that I've like corrupted the minds of children. Like I felt like I was like, there was a lot of internalized transphobia. Like, I'm such a freak, and like it's selfish of me to look like this in front of children, because like, what if they like go, ew, gross, and like I've creeped out children, you know? Am I a bad person because of this? And then my therapist was like, well, maybe one of them will come out as trans one day and they saw you, and you know, it would help them. But I used to remember a lot of shame and a lot of fear for a really long time, and it was actually like doing stand up dressed up that really made it easier.
When was the first time you did stand up dressed up?
I was doing like this college, like this kind of college show that was a really small show in front of like 8 or 9 people, and then the second time I did it was like at the Brea Improv.
You mean dressed? You were
dressed up at the Brea Improv.
Wait, was that college show at the University of Laverne?
No, it was a very small, like really small show.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anymore. But I remember so the Brea Improv was like my home club. I'd done comedy there so many times. It's like the club I kill at the most, you know? And but I came out and the crowd completely shut down. None of my jokes worked. I bombed at the Brea Improv. I'd never bombed at the Brea Improv before. And
were you doing trans material at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
I was, yeah. I was doing trans material, and I bombed, and I was like humiliated afterwards. And I just like, I didn't do comedy there for a long time until like last month. I didn't do comedy there for like 5 years after that.
Wow.
But because it was just like, oh my god, my home club hates me, you know.
Yeah.
But then I started doing more shows. It was roast battle that was like, I'm comfortable being me now.
Yeah.
Because like, why not just like go into the belly of the beast and like just have every insult thrown at you at once, but it's done with like love. And I just, all that tension just kind of like left it. And now when I'm dressed up, I don't even really think about it anymore.
Yeah, that's how I became introduced to you, is through roast battle. So I always knew you as Robin.
Right.
Like, I never, because I'm not from the OC scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you started roast battle well before me, and so you were already like killing it in the roast battle.
Yeah, I always loved the roasting and everything.
But honestly, I do have to say, it is people like you and people like Joe, other queer people doing it in such a straight masculine place that made me feel like, oh, I could do it.
Yeah.
And then I did 12 roast battles.
Yeah, no, I don't want to make this a whole like roast battle podcast, but the reason why roasting, like, to me, like, people kind of look at me like, especially a lot of trans people when I first started, was like, do you hate yourself? Or do you really want to do this to our community? And I remember thinking like, am I fucking this up for the whole community? Like, what am I? But then there was something inside of me that said like, I think this is progressive, but I'm not really sure why yet. If you just kind of, and I was like, just follow your instincts. You know comedy well. For some reason, I feel like if I do this, it'll be helpful for trans people overall. I've never told anyone this part, you know, because I don't want to be like, I'm helping out the community. I kind of don't like, you know, to be that person. But why can't a trans person be verbally dominating to a white guy,
Right.
and call him a piece of shit white guy, like, and people cheer, like, they see a lot of trans people focus on like what are they going to say about you,
Right, but not what you get to
but
say about
what do I
back.
got to say about them, and also that I'm laughing off their jokes.
Yeah.
They're not even offending me. And so that image of like a powerful like trans person dominating, I thought in my head was like, that's a very powerful image for trans people. And yeah, after I did it for a while, other trans people started battling. Like at first they didn't want to do it either, but they're like, wow, there's a lot of fun there and there's a lot of love, and there are no like Twitter hate mail jokes. You know, like that's the thing about roast battle. Like no one's being like, hey dude, kill yourself, and everyone's like, oh, like,
That stuff doesn't work.
it does not work in that room.
The biggest example of that where I witnessed it was when some comic, I forgot who, it was not a good battle because it was lopsided,
Right.
was battling Leah Kajanian,
Right.
and just made a non-joke, just a straight up insult about Leah's dead dad, like,
Oh,
I'm glad your
God.
fucking dad died, and it just kind of was silent, and then someone from the audience was like, dude, leaves Leah's dad out of this. And they said that, where it was like, yeah. And then one of the judges was like, yeah, that you kind of need to like put that in a joke form. If you're like, you can make a dead dad joke if you want.
Right,
But it does need to be
it needs to be a funny crafted. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I was going to say, I actually think roast battle is like the most powerful because you are going into this like incinerator, but it's the only place that you are empowered, encouraged, and celebrated for clapping back, which
Yes.
is what trans people in public don't ever get to do. They
Right,
have to just,
yeah.
like, take it and walk on. They don't get to have actually a like bloodthirsty crowd on your side.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, I just don't like this idea in general about like we have to be like, oh my God, trans people, we have to be perfect for people to accept trans people.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I be like kind of a piece of shit sometimes? Like, what if I'm a piece of shit, trans people don't deserve rights anymore? Like, what kind of fucking mentality is that? You know, like I like to show people that I'm a flawed full person because I think that's more relatable to people. And so like, yeah, I think like you know, when you express your insecurities and all your flaws and all your fucked up thoughts and everything, that's when people really gravitate towards you, you know? And I think it was actually someone gave me some advice, and he like summed up everything I was doing with very few words. I'm like, wow, you're the only one that gets it. He goes, yeah, so like throw trans people under the bus in your short term so that you can have them like long-term happiness for them. Like that's, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, yeah, like that's, you know, like, I guess I don't really like to talk about how much the trans community means to me, because I think there's a lot of the narratives that I don't really like very much. I think we take ourselves like way too fucking seriously.
Well, that's what's I think that's something very interesting or like refreshing about you is that you are kind of at odds sometimes with them.
Yes,
or like I
a
feel
lot.
like probably I would imagine like the Twitter community like comes for you with their hive mind to be like, how could you say that? You
Yeah,
know?
I have.
But you are
yeah.
a very like independent person, and you are also just very funny. And
Thanks.
it's like also there's this weird identity thing. Like I feel like for all of us in identity politics, where it's like your identity as a comedian versus your gay identity versus your Asian identity versus your female identity. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you are this weird, like we're all in this weird tribe together, no matter how you identify as a comedian. It's not an excuse to be like shitty, but it is funny because you are like pushing those.
Yeah.
You are funny because you make everyone laugh and you also alienate everybody.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Like to push buttons.
I love pushing buttons, and I got two things to say about that. Like, first of all, the reason why I don't like a lot of comedians in general is I think it's okay to make points. You know, I like comedy that makes a point, you know, but I believe in like a show not tell kind of comedy.
Yeah,
and also
that's a great point.
Also, I am a comedian before I'm trans. And I think people have that reversed a lot. Like, I'm watching someone, I'm like, okay, I agree with what you're saying. It's not quite funny.
Right.
So I don't know, like, can you make a joke? Like, are you flawed? Like, do you have any fucked up thought?
Yeah.
Like, why are you a perfect person? And why is every joke I hear about like, well, I was accosted at the airport. I'm like, okay, it sucks, but like, make it funny. Or
or like preaching versus like comedy.
yeah.
And you know what I hear a lot from specifically like gay comics who are like gay woke first is like they get on stage and are immediately using like woke internet language, which is cool for a think piece about some hate crime that happened or whatever. That's awful. Okay, that's fine. But for if you're using stuff that's kind of like
academic or like
patriarchy, intersectionality, those things right up top, unless you're going somewhere where it's like funny, it already feels like a lecture.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, the most powerful thing you could do is to be funny. I mean, like, my favorite comic, someone who you open for, my favorite comic ever is Margaret Cho.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she was
Yeah.
always funny and would make the best points about
Yes.
whatever she was talking
It's
about.
true. Yeah. I love
You know?
Margaret. Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually thought about what you said recently about language and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, like, it's like I wish people would like listen to my whole point, because like the first half is going to sound like a right-wing perspective, but it's like, no, it's actually, if you keep listening, I think people who do that, what you're talking about, when they go on stage with like the patriarchy and this and that, and or a trans person goes turfs and this and that, they claim to want inclusive language, but it's like, you do not want inclusive language, because if you want inclusive language, you would include people who are dumb or people who don't have the internet, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying dumb in a derogatory way. There are dumb people who do not get it.
Right.
And just because you're dumb does not mean you're a bad person. There are dumb people who are very sweet and they just don't get it. And so when you are doing those terms like, this turf was doing this and that to me, and a dumb person might look at that and go, oh, what's a turf? And you like treat them like a Trump supporter, like,
because they don't know.
oh my god.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so I guess ableism is okay if you're woke. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are we doing? Like, are dumb people not allowed to laugh at things? Like, so I think it's like a laziness thing, actually. Like, as a comedian, if you don't make your, like, you can make complex concepts accessible for everyone. It takes a lot of work, but if you really care about
you're
inclusive
good, too,
language,
that's the point.
yeah, it takes a lot of work for me to do a joke where I'm like, okay, what is this concept I'm doing? It's kind of a more like, sophisticated concept I'm doing, and how do I do that with like very plain language, where a smart person and a person who's not as smart, they can laugh at that joke for different reasons.
Right.
Yes.
And it takes so much work, but it's like, for me, it's worth it, because I think it's very elitist for a lot of woke people to like think that every dumb person is like not worth making laugh. Like, I'm gonna just do clever material for me and my friends, and then claim that they're being inclusive when they're not.
Right. Or like
Right.
complaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
And this may sound like a vapid question, but like when you dressed up that first time at the mall, which in my mind is like a romantic comedy montage. Like, you're like trying to find the right outfit.
Yeah.
How do you how do you find your style as a woman?
Oh my God. You know
and
what?
also, like, by the way, I didn't know you were blonde as a woman.
yeah.
Like,
no.
it's vapid, but it's like, it is kind of
it's weird.
interesting to me.
It's weird. Like, I don't know. I guess it was so much repression for like 20 years or so. And I just like looked at things and I just went, I'd like to wear that. I think I'd look good in that. I can't really explain it. It's just like, I don't know if my sense of style was good. First of all, I don't like looking like everyone else anyway. Mm-hmm. So like, the more outlandish, the better. And so I kind of just went with like, fuck what everyone thinks. What do I like?
Yeah.
And I just kind of trusted my instincts. And
It's just very interesting to me, because when I think about, and Jonathan, maybe you too, like, we are both cis, and like,
Oh, sis.
we cis. No, but I like, especially when all this kind of discussion just came into the zeitgeist about trans and like what you feel in your body, and like if you feel like a man or a woman, you
Right.
know, and what,
Right.
like how much femininity or whatever. Because I'm like masculine girly, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I never would wear a dress on stage, or
Right.
heels,
Yeah.
or a skirt. It would make me feel entirely like vulnerable and exposed and stuff. But then
Yeah.
there's like female comedians who now are like allowed to wear crop tops,
Right.
Yeah, I feel very similar. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to trans people in terms of this, but I still to this day feel like I'm not dressing the way that I want to dress, and that would make me feel good, because I'm afraid for comedy that it would take away from my act, and because most places I perform are straight spaces, I feel like they would immediately write me off as like, oh, he's the gay guy wearing like a share shirt with like a leopard thing over it, which
Yeah.
I have those clothes.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend has a lot of those clothes. A lot of them are actually his, because he wears just what he wants to wear. And he's actually encouraged me to be like, why don't we just like go to a thrift store and get you stuff that you actually want to wear, instead of you getting like another Massimo shirt from Target
Right.
to just look like all these other like open micer dudes, like, why don't you start dressing the way that you dress when you go out and have fun at like a gay bar?
Right.
I love that's so interesting.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I relate. I mean, I was always dressing down in hoodies, like mask, defeminizing myself.
Right.
Even I feel like I'm a weird older generation of female comedian where like all the young ones are in like thigh highs and crop tops and like glittery bras.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're supposed to look like men, don't you know?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
kind of want to wear, I mean, how many pictures of makeup do I send you of me with a full face of makeup on?
Yeah.
And I have so much makeup. And it is therapy for me to sit and watch TV and do my makeup. I really, really love it.
Right.
And part of me is like, I could never do stand-up with makeup on. Never. But cut to me, like, on my birthday, we went out to Akbar and had, like, full highlighter on and body lava. And it's just like, I don't know how to get over dressing and wearing what I want because it's like, oh, I'm already gay enough because of my material and what I talk about on
you don't
stage.
want to be like too much.
Now I'm
going to
be too much. Like, what is too much?
You know, I don't know if there's like this is how I feel about most things in life, not just this, but like, I don't think it's like what you do or what you wear. It's just like about like, do you trust yourself to do? It's about trusting yourself, right? It's like it doesn't matter what you wear, really. It's about how you feel about what you're wearing and like how much you're second guessing yourself and all that stuff. I don't think about what I'm wearing anymore. I just don't give a fuck. Like I won't do like if they tell me not to wear like specific colors for TV or whatever. Okay, then I'll just wear dark colors or whatever. But I just like I remember when I first came out, I felt like I was in this box my whole life, and then I was like, okay, now I'm out of this box, right? Like I'm trans now. And the first day that I came out, a bunch of trans people were like, "This is how you're trans. Like this is how you be trans." Like, well, you just didn't put me in another fucking box. Like, dude, I just got out of one. Like,
what were some of those guidelines?
It was like, well, first of all, this is like what you like.
What are you supposed to do?
Oh my god, there was a lot of it was like what you're supposed to be offended by. So this is gonna piss some people off, but it was like, if you get misgendered as an act of violence, you know, shit like that. I was like, well, that sounds a bit extreme, but just like things like that. It was like, this is what you're supposed to wear, this is how you're supposed to do, and this is how you're supposed to act. And I guess it was like just tripping up on like, wait, am I too feminine? Do I look? Should I wear more makeup? You know, is my hair too short? Am I messing up trans people for like just kind of like how you're overthinking everything? And after a while, it was like, who gives a fuck? Just be unique and be funny. Like it's just we overthink everything. Everything is like some existential. What does it all mean? Who am I? What it was? But like, if you really break down like what things are or what comedy is, it's just like, what do I feel like doing? And I think like, if you don't trust yourself and you don't know what you want, you're always going to be a little lost. Yeah. So it's more like fixing those two things fixes a lot, I think.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'll put on an outfit and then be like, no, take it down, plainer.
Oh, wait.
Plainer. And it's
I
like,
didn't know that about you.
Yeah, well, because you're not there when I'm getting dressed.
I know, but I didn't know. It's so interesting because
plainer. And it's like, why don't you just go out in the first thing that comes to mind?
That's exact, dude. That's what I look at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a Mario shirt and basketball shorts. Like I just literally could not give less of a fuck anymore. Yeah.
But that is so. I'm so fascinated by that for you, Jonathan, especially because
like this is a risk. I'm wearing a pink hoodie.
Right. But what's so funny is that on our way over here, we were talking about how one of your frustrations is that sometimes you're not perceived as gay,
which is crazy to me from stand up and like what I can see like on the street, but like some casting director thought we were together and was like, "Oh, we loved your web series." And it's like, "Oh, you didn't watch our web series, did you?"
Oh my god.
And I was like, "In what world, honey? We both have problems." But no, but that's so funny because too that you're like, if I wear like a leopard shirt, they're gonna think I'm gay, and I'm like, but your act could not get any more gay. So I'd say wear it, and in fact, I think it would actually help. Because they would already immediately know your persona, and so it wouldn't be like shocking if you said it would actually help you like lead with that. And I actually think it would help you a lot. And you do look just super cute in a lot of the clothes. Like, I think when we go out, it's funny when we both go out to the gay club. Yeah, literally, I am like totally different. We both look like we went over makeover machines.
Yes. Or you can dip into lesbian and you get the lesbians riled up.
That is the problem.
Yes.
Riled up.
Oh yeah. She'll just get approached.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, in stand up, I can wear a tank top and a leather jacket, and they're like, okay, she's like a chick. And then at the gay club, they're like, hey, is your friend available?
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
But yeah, I think you should go for it.
Yeah, I think I just need to get over it.
I want to be more, but I have had people say to me straight up, like, I will have like a rough set, and this is the thing, like I don't want to be conceited. I don't know what's in my head, but I've seriously, my boyfriend has been like, you look too pretty.
Oh wow, okay.
And he'll be like, that's why they didn't like you. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
But it is like, I was wearing, like, I used to have these boots that were more like kind of almost like a stiletto heel.
Yeah.
And even my boyfriend would be like, you're going to wear those on stage. And I, you know, of course I'm like, don't tell me what to do in that, like, you know, and then it's like, I fucking bombed and people are staring at me. Like, but I also go, I think that might be an issue, but I can't.
You know what? I don't know if this is true, and this is going to sound very generalized and everything, but I think that the problem that we have is maybe some of those things might have a grain of truth into them. Maybe you look too pretty, you shouldn't wear these shoes. But I think the problem is that we think there is a kind of a should objective thing that we're supposed to do.
Right.
When in reality, all anyone really cares about is, this is like a life hack. You're honest with yourself. You show your vulnerability. And if you're honest and vulnerable and you're not hurting anyone, people are going to think that what you're doing is pretty cool. Like, no matter what you're fucking doing.
That's so interesting, because then the other thing that I've been told before is that they're like, people will think that you think, like, if you're wearing those shoes, they think that you think you're hot.
Well,
like, that's your vibe.
Sure.
But it is funny because then I go, but that's interesting, because I'm like,
why
I'm
couldn't
not,
you?
But I could be, but I'm also like, but I also don't feel comfortable in those clothes on stage.
Yeah.
And so there is a
There
bit
is
of uncomfortability, or maybe a
yes.
desperation or something that maybe
Yeah.
that is what reads, or.
But this is,
Interesting.
I'm telling from personal experience. I remember specific shows where I went on stage and I was feeling insecure for some reason, where I'm like, this crowd's going to fucking hate me. Right.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. So all of a sudden I'm on stage and I'm kind of bombing, and I'm like, it's probably because of what I was wearing. And then you listen back to the set and it's like, I started off fucking aggressive.
Right.
Because I just like, it was not what I looked like or what I was wearing. Maybe that had a little to do with it, but it was more like, you're giving off a fucking really aggressive vibe. Like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, so I don't know how much of that stuff is true. Like, I don't know how much people really care about that stuff.
Yeah. And also
Right.
it's like, how does it sync with your person? Like Natasha Leggero, she always dresses like she's going to like a 1960s house party. Like, she's like
Right.
the most glamorous in a
Yeah.
fur coat.
What are you, a trans woman at a supermarket?
Yeah. In pearls and a fur.
Yeah, you going to Vaughn's in a debutante ball? Like,
but it's her persona. But it's very authentic to her. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like she's putting on it's like she wears that stuff to the grocery store. She really does.
I have been wearing the same outfit for 5 years on stage. It's a purple dress and a jacket. The same I wore for my hour for Comedy Central. I just don't like. I don't know. All that stuff used to mean so much to me, you know. And now it's like, I don't know. I'm sorry. This might be changing the subject a little bit, but this is kind of a bit of mine that I've been doing about how I feel like I went through all the stages of womanhood at like a fast rate. Like, so like when I first came out, I was like baby trans, like I want to wear pink and glitter, whatever. And then like the second year, I went through that college phase where I'm gonna put up thirst traps, and then when guys say they want to fuck me, I'll like take a screenshot and be like, this guy's a pervert, right? And then so now guys can go into my inbox and be like, is that guy being mean to you? And I can be like, oh my god, people, can you believe I got dick pics? You know, I went through that whole phase. And then after the third year, I was like, it's like I feel like an old woman now. I'm just like, oh my god, makeup is oppressive. Like this, like now I just don't wear it at all anymore. Like I'm over it. And the line I do on stage is I go like, that's how I knew I was a real woman, because you're not a real woman until you don't want to be a fucking woman anymore. Right?
Yeah, that's a great line.
That's how I feel now about the transness thing. Like, it was almost like I got it out of my system. And I know that sounds fucked up, but like.
Just the excessive femininity.
Yeah, yeah. I think
I'm a girl.
I needed to do that, you know. And I every now and then I am in the mood. Like if there's like a big went to the Magic Castle, which you have to dress up. I'm like, oh my god, an excuse to wear this black dress I like. But I'm fucking tired, you know, of all that stuff. So, yeah.
It is really interesting though, you saying that you want to dress like an old woman though, because I think it coincidentally aligns with like current hip fashion, which is like now, like we talk about it, like all the women now, it's like
dressed down
are
and
just
stuff.
kind of like ugly sack, like
Yeah.
knitted
Ugly sack sweater.
yeah, like
Chunky
knitted,
knit.
and even like very like hip men now. It's like getting into this, which is kind of cool in a statement way, but like it's getting into this like genderless androgyny fashion
Yes,
that's like
I do
really
notice that,
permeating
yeah.
like hipster
Normcore.
culture. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Before I forget, so like the thing I talk about authenticity is I'm realizing this now. Like I used to overthink when someone would ask me a question, and I would think, what is the right response that I'm going to give as a trans person to help the community or whatever, right? So someone asked me the other day a really good question. I've never been asked this before, and it was like, when you consider yourself a woman, do you want to be referred to as just a woman, or do you want to be referred to as a trans woman? And I realized that like I kind of like that I don't really pass. Like, I know that's weird. Like, I kind of like that I look trans, right? I have a 5 o'clock shadow no matter how much foundation I wear. I used to hide this part. Like, I want to fit, but like, what am I really doing when I do that? Right? Is that I'm trying to fit the mold of what people think I should look like. And one of the reasons I like being trans is because it's like almost like rebellious. Like, fuck society. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And how can I be like fuck society if I'm like I'm gonna blend in with everyone? Like I like that I stand out. I look like an odd woman, you know? Who cares? Who fucking cares, right? Like being unique is good, especially when you get older. People like unique more. Like I did this like when I was like in high school. People were like, what the fuck? But now I'm like in my 30s. People get bored. Like, let me talk to like a weird person, right? So I think
Let me talk to a weird person.
yeah, I'm a weird looking person. Like it's fucking fine, you know. So yeah, just like be authentic to yourself and.
Do you ever feel? Do you ever have interactions with trans women who do pass for cis? Are they uncomfortable with people who don't? Does that not matter? What are the dynamics there?
I mean, there's a lot of infighting within the trans community. I feel like a lot of it is just like white trans women just arguing with each other about this academia shit. I don't really fucking care about. Like they're using terms that I don't have the time to look up. Like apparently there are like trans women who are like bioessentialists or some shit, like that think that you're not a real woman unless you look like a woman. And it's just like, or like there's something called true scum. I don't even know what that is. I think it's similar to that. And for me, I'm like, why do you guys have so much free time on your hands?
Yeah.
Like, do you guys not live your lives? Like,
Right.
you're just gonna be on the internet and argue about terms. Like, and I was like, it's just the white ones that bother me. You know, like I don't like, I'm sorry, but I don't.
That goes for all genders.
Look, I have a lot of white trans women friends or whatever, so I don't mean this personally, but I mean like as a group of people, like I'm sick of them telling me how I'm supposed to fucking act and think and what to be offended by. Like, why is it that just because you're trans doesn't mean you're not white, you know, like I'm sorry, but it's easier to be a white trans woman than an Asian one or especially like a black trans woman, right? Like they're not telling me what to do. Why are you telling me what to do all the fucking time? So I do run into some of that, like just this over policing of what we're allowed to laugh at and not laugh at and joke
like
about.
Present.
Yeah. Okay, this is like not even a trans person that did this, but I would say like just a lot of progressives in general, like they like to police what we're allowed to laugh at within our own community. And I did one of those memes, you know, like those epic handshake memes where like there's like the thing in the middle is like there's a quote and then there's two hands.
Oh,
that are shaking.
yeah. Got
So
it.
I wrote one that kind of like I was like, this might piss off some people, and I wrote you know it's not real, right? It's the quote, and the left hand was saying what wrestling fans hear all the time, and the right one was post-op trans woman on a first date. You know it's not real.
No,
right?
I think I actually saw that.
I saw
then
that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was like, oh man, I'll take this down if it offends people. I think it's so funny that I don't care. And then people who were trans liked it, and they were like, dude, that's so funny, that's fucked up, but it's kind of true or whatever. And then some person, just like a white person, just comes in and goes like, there's like a thumbs down, and I'm like, what's your objection? You're like, are you saying that trans women's bodies aren't real? And it's like, do you know what a joke is? And also, no, I'm not saying that. And then
Was this person even trans?
I don't think so, but like it's the example of just a white person telling me what to do. And then I think a black trans woman told them to like basically shut the fuck up. It's like they took the comment down. Like I don't just over policing just from white people in general, but especially because I deal with white trans women a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like policed by them too much.
Well, you know, it's so funny. So I saw that meme. I
Yeah.
thought it was funny.
Right.
I went to like it and then I didn't. And I was like, I wanted to comment and leave like a laughing, crying face emojis. And then I was like, no, because people are going to think that people are going to say you're transphobic for laughing at this joke and leaving that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, should I laugh and then go, oh, Robin, my dear old friend who I totally understand, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then I was like, should I like it? I was like, is that going to get like I literally, and I didn't respond to your meme because I didn't want to get canceled.
Right. Yeah. I just don't.
And that's like dumb, but it's true. I was like, I don't know what to like. I literally was like, I was like, I don't know what to do.
I think this is like deeper than trans, but I do think white people like over police jokes like way too much. Yeah. I don't even mean. By the way, I don't mean that from a right wing perspective of like everyone's a pussy nowadays, but it's like there is a difference between like saying you shouldn't say that. Like, or no, I mean, I would say like right wingers would say things like joke about anything you want because if not, you're a pussy, right?
Yeah.
But I would say from a left wing perspective is like, well, why am I not allowed to have this as a coping mechanism for trauma? Like, are you going to take away my coping mechanism trauma because it doesn't fit some idealistic white academia SJW term that you learn. Like, this is how we cope
Yeah.
with a group of people. You're telling a group of trans women what we're allowed to laugh at. Like, are you telling me that's not oppressive? Because it didn't go into your fucking rule book of what is offensive nowadays. Like, we're not allowed to be people who laugh at fucked up things.
That's what I think.
It's also because like white people, no matter what, whether they're straight or not, because they're the dominant culture, always they do feel this like kind of need to insert themselves into conversations that actually they have no stake in or don't know what they're talking about. And whether it's them commenting or whether it's them being offended on behalf of.
Yes,
that's why
offended on behalf of really fucking bothers me.
like I have a joke about being Latino but looking white, and the punchline is like, I'm Latino, but I look white because I'm blessed. And in Latino rooms, it always gets a laugh.
Yes.
Because Latinos understand colorism in the Latino world. That you do have it easier if you look white or are lighter skinned Latino. White rooms never laugh at it. And it's because they think that I'm saying it's better to look white and they don't want to be perceived as racist. So did that joke work in Portland? Absolutely not. Did it work in Boyle Heights? 100%.
I have the same thing with white progressive rooms too. Yeah. It sucks.
Which is crazy because it's like you're not white passing, you are trans, and they're still offended on behalf of both those communities. It's like, why? I'm of those communities. I'm standing right in front of you guys.
I've just had it with them. My patience is gone at this point.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I will say, as the TERF in the room. No, I'm kidding. As the white intersectional. No, but it is because I am like, I am like progressive, but I am a progressive that understands like those bounds, you know what I mean? And I've overstepped them before. Like, I've made every mistake a white person has made. Yeah. But it is like in that. But I am very challenged right now of what is an overcorrection? What are you okay to like? How will things be perceived like publicly? Like, that's stupid. But I'm like, if me leaving a laughing face on your post, is that going to get me canceled from Weekend Update in 3 years? Like, I don't fucking know. Yeah. And so it's like you want to be safer than sorry, but it's very it's very confusing.
This is not other people. This is my own hang up that I realized like really recently is that I have a trauma response to being infantilized. Because I was disempowered as a child and my parents didn't let me do anything. So like now if anyone is like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's like it triggers like this like, don't fucking apologize to me. Call me a piece of shit because I can take it. Like I have such an anger when somebody is like over apologetic and
or like treating you with like white gloves kind of.
I would rather, and this is my own opinion of how to treat me. I'd rather you just like have a clumsy fucked up interaction with me that's genuine than like I don't want to like you're talking to me like you're in a minefield, like you're trying to like dodge mines the whole time. Like you're not even talking to me like I'm a person. You're afraid you're gonna offend me. Like I'm 33 years old. I do roast battles and I tell a lot of fucked up jokes all the time. I can take anything you're gonna say to me or ask me. Like I'm an adult. I'm not gonna. Oh my god, I can't believe you said that to me. I don't do that. So I don't know. I feel like I think there is a bit of a chip on my shoulder, which is why I act the way I do sometimes, where it's like, without sounding like the anti-PC people who I hate the most, there is also a like, can you guys lighten up just a little bit? Like for real. Like this is it's such a bummer to be trans already. Like it's fucking hard. You want to make it harder. Everything is such a fucking bummer all the time. Like
so serious.
I got in trouble. People got mad at me once because I was in a bad mood and I just saw like whenever someone posts like a picture of a black trans woman on my wall, I'm just like, okay, I know she's dead. Like, you know what? It's like there's like, why don't you post a picture of a black trans woman who like she bought a deli, a nice fucking story.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I got so mad one day. I just wrote, do you guys know that trans people can do more than just got murdered for a living?
That is so good.
And I was so mad when I wrote that, and some people thought it was really funny, but some people were like, wow, okay, like don't say that, and I'm like, fuck you, don't tell me what I can say,
but that's also that's almost exactly the same thing that black people say about, can you please not keep making films about us just being slaves?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, of course we don't want you to forget about slavery, but it's like we also are modern day people who are not slaves.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, on the feminism side, I do hate the constant thing of like, women are less paid. Like it's like just nonstop about your oppression and you're like
Oh my
whatever.
God,
And I'm like,
yeah.
dude, fucking, I know I don't care anymore. Like honestly, I'm like, I don't even care. We live it, so I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not like. Not that all these struggles are equal or whatever, but it's like I am very anti that messaging at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a, it's funny. There's a trans actress. I think her name's Alexandra Billings. She's from Transparent.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I love her. I heard her once on a podcast say like, my Instagram is me doing like the most basic, simple shit. It's like me at lunch, me going to whatever. And
Yes.
people are like, why aren't you posting about these causes? And she's like, because I want trans kids in the middle to see that you can just be a normal person and fucking go to the beach.
Yeah.
And live a nice life and have
Yeah.
a career and do all this stuff. And it doesn't have to be like, there's that whole thing too about like, yes, you are trans, but like, is that 100% of your identity?
That's exactly how I
Which
feel.
is
right.
for race. It's a very loaded question.
Yeah,
But
right,
it's like, can I just be a person? Like,
yeah, to go with that, I actually did think about trans kids. I mean, I like this podcast is exposing how much I actually care because I actually never say
we're
this
so
stuff.
sorry, guys.
No, it's like I actually was thinking about like if I were a child and I like was on Facebook or whatever and I was like trans and I wanted to come out and all I saw was like stories of people being murdered and how awful it is all the time. Like I wouldn't want to come out. That's fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I remember the first like before I dressed up for the first time and I was just like reading I don't want to say their names, but like the people who taught me how to be trans when I first came out, and they were just very hyper aware of like how we can get murdered and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, are you saying that if once I walk out the door, I'll just be killed immediately? Like that's kind of what they were pushing forth. And I'm like, there's no way children are not being fucking affected by this. Like, why don't we show more stories about like the euphoria that comes out? And also, like you said, like there's other things too, like a trans person who owns a burger place or like.
Right.
Just like a boring trans person,
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Those are the real
is
heroes.
all of them. No, I'm kidding. I agree with you.
Yeah.
What do you? Can we do a lightning round? What are the questions you hate to be asked that everybody asks?
Oh my god. I don't get asked a lot of annoying questions anymore.
I mean, other than the like surgery one, which I feel like is like the number one thing
Yeah,
to ask trans
surgery,
people,
they-
but like, are there questions that you're like, I don't want to fucking answer this ever again?
Just
Or
like
is it everything I asked?
when I use the word dude a lot. Do you get offended when I think back then I was hyper aware of being offended by everything, so I think I was like, hey, I know when you call me dude, I know you wouldn't do that with your girlfriends, would
Yeah.
you? But I think I've gone to like this place where like, dude, even if you call me he, like I'll let you do that 4 times without me even giving a shit. Like I'm just so sick of looking for things to be offended by. It made my life so miserable. And I don't know if this is even like a completed thought, but I've realized recently that I'm very far left when it comes to social issues. But when it comes to like how I feel about myself, I talk to myself like I'm a right winger. Like I talk about myself like, don't, you're not just your oppression, like get the fuck up and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Like I would never say that to other people to, that they should do that in society, but that's how I've kind of operated in my life now is I'm a right winger just to myself and a left winger everywhere else.
Personally and publicly.
Yeah, like there's a PC in private. Oh no, PC in public, not PC in private. That's kind of how I live my life now.
I think that's probably most people.
Yeah, I hope so.
But it is interesting. I am astounded sometimes by people. I'm like, isn't being offended so exhausting?
It is so
at every
exhausting.
single thing all the time.
It is really exhausting.
I mean, I don't give a shit. I just don't care about a lot of shit, but I know that I'm more numb to or more distant than most people.
The thing that
I just have no heart. So
The thing that I get a lot is straight comics doing gay material at mics or shows, and they're friends of mine, and I can see them looking at me from the stage.
I hate that.
To see if I'm laughing.
Are you okay with it?
Do your fucking bit. I don't care.
don't give a fuck,
I'm
right.
not going to give you notes. And what I absolutely hate is the coming up after the show to see if your bit is okay.
Dude, that happens to me so much with trans material. And it's like, dude, I wasn't even listening.
That's exactly what I
That
say.
is the best
I care
answer.
so little because of whatever fucked up thing you said about trans people. First of all, I just did not hear laughter. So I'm sure you bombed with it anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come up after you and I'm going to do well. So like you could have said the worst things about trans people. Thanks for helping me look better.
Right.
So I just don't, I'm done with all that. Like, I think that this is some of the stuff is not fully completed thoughts and they're gonna sound problematic, but I think that people need to stop taking systemic issues personally. I think it's like when somebody misgenders me or something, right? Yeah, there's a personal like, okay, you're not considerate or whatever, right? But sometimes it's because systemically we have taught people not to look at trans people like people. That's bigger than me. It's a bigger issue, you know? So if you take every systemic issue on a personal level, you'll fucking be miserable all the time.
Yeah.
It sucks. It shouldn't happen. I completely agree with that, but it is not personal. And once I started just adopting the mindset that none of this shit is personal, I just stopped caring. I know you're supposed to care about being misgendered. I don't give a fuck anymore. Because no matter what they say about me, I'm still a woman. I don't give a fuck. You can call me a dude, sir, and I'll be like, hey, can you not do that? And if they still do it, oh, okay, I don't need you in my life.
Right.
Like, no, fuck off. You don't want to call me what I want to be called, then, you know, screw off. But yeah, it's just I've gotten to the point now where, like, if someone online, like, there was a really funny thread the other day on Reddit, like, I put up one of my jokes, and every person who liked me was misgendering me, and every person who hated me was gendering me correctly. And it was the funniest thread. It was like, man, this guy is really fucking funny. And it's like, no, you know what, she's really problematic. And I'm like, I want to talk to that guy who's misgendering me, because at least he sees me as a
He's a new
comedian.
fan.
Yeah, he's a fan of mine, you know. He doesn't give a fuck. But yeah, I have been told though that I have very I don't have what you would call common trans experiences. Trans people have told me that, so I might be coming from a place of like unchecked privilege that I don't even know I have. So I am aware of that. But a lot of things I don't like. First of all, I don't like the term dead name. Because I don't want the word dead associated with trans people. Like, I think it's a bit over dramatic. Like, is Robert dead? Like, Robert was who I was for most of my life. And also Robert was quote unquote brave enough to come out as Robin. Was that not an act of bravery from Robert? You know, like, are you going to just like spend your whole life hating who you were before? Like, that's kind of fucked up, you know? And so I like, can we use like former name or other name or, you know, given name? So like, yeah, and it's just like I remember when I came out and I heard the term dead name and I was like, I didn't sign off on any of this stuff. Do I have to be okay with everything people tell me? And so, like, you know, you're afraid to speak out because you don't want to get canceled and all that. I'm afraid of that stuff too. But yeah, I don't like dead name. I don't like this, you know, like, you're supposed to hate who you were before. Alexandra Billings did this play, and there was a really dramatic scene where, like, you know, there was a boy version of her and a girl version of her, and the last scene was her yelling at the boy version and the boy version like reaching out. I'm gonna start crying, but like and like they hug each other at the end, you know, and it's like I didn't think I was gonna cry on the podcast, but like I was like, oh, you know, like when you come out and people talk about their dead name and like it's traumatic and it's triggering for me. And it's like, what did hating Robert ever do for my life except for make me hate myself more? So when I accepted that Robert was just a dude who tried his best and it didn't work out, my life got better, you know? I just think it's just too much trying to be, it's going to sound awful, but let me see if I can be the most oppressed person I can possibly be so that people can care about me, right? And so I remember recently I got kind of upset because I was telling people like, being trans is not the hardest part of my life. And I was telling you this before the podcast. If you want to know in a vacuum the hardest parts of my life, bipolar is by far first. And then it would be being poor is second, and being trans is third, and being Asian is fourth. And I was just like, it just pisses people off. I'm like, I'm sorry, but trans is third in my life, right? But but you know, you're taught to like, I think there is too much narrative of negativity, and I'm not one of those like positivity people. I think it is kind of toxic to be positive, but it's more like, no, everything does suck. There are a lot of microaggressions. I'm not one of those people who say that microaggressions don't exist. I'm saying they do exist. They're all true, but if you focus on them all the time, you are never going to be happy. And I remember I'm sorry, I'm babbling, but I remember there was a time before I came out, actually, I was doing a lot of woke material in 2013 when I was like newly woke after my edgelord phase. And,
one of my favorite sentences ever said on the podcast.
That will be our full quote.
And so I was on stage and I remember thinking like, man, nothing racist happened to me today. I'm bummed out. I don't have any material. Ooh. And I'm like, wait, am I like waiting excitedly?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? Like, I remember thinking like, oh, you gotta be fucking careful, man. You're gonna be one of those. And I just hesitate to say this out loud because it does sound like a lot of right wingers being like, don't be a victim and all that stuff. And I think they're doing it in a very reductionist, shitty way. But there is like some kind of like, there's a complexity to that, right? To like not constantly like just look for microaggressions all the time.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I remember this summer you were traveling with your boyfriend in Spain and there was a shooting in Texas, the like
Oh,
race-based one.
the El Paso massacre.
And you were despairing, and you were like, I feel like I should be back in there like with my people and stuff. And I was telling you, I was like,
Oh, I felt like an asshole because I was like in España with all the like white Europeans, and then I was like, I should be back in like the U.S. with like Latinos, especially because this happened to Mexican Americans, and I felt like
Right.
I shouldn't be enjoying this vacation because I was like,
Oh.
there's so many people from my community who are Chicanos who were suffering. And I remember you were telling me, and my mom even calling me, and actually she said this through a long ass voicemail, and she was just like, there is nothing you can actually really do right now except for like donating money. And they were like, but I forgot what you said, like something about enjoying the time.
people have fought and died, gay, Latino, whatever. I was like, you are on a vacation with your boyfriend in Spain.
Yeah.
Men have died, like gay men have been beaten. Like you are living the life that people die for. So it's
wow.
actually sometimes not disrespectful, but it's like, they're like, bitch, I died so that you go be in Spain and having fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Don't be sitting here crying with us. Like
Yeah.
you died so that you can,
Yeah.
and it's not that like one happens for the other, but
Right, like I don't think El Paso, no one died for me to be in
Right,
Spain.
right.
But
Yeah.
you mean like gay Latino men in the past who have like fought for civil
Yes.
rights. You know what I mean?
I mean, you're living the highest thing that any gay man has been able to do like thus far in history. You know
And
what
I was
mean?
in one of the gayest cities. Like Madrid was very like openly gay and very like queer, and like there were like lesbian sex clubs there, which is like I had never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
It was just very like a cool place, but I just felt like I was in the wrong place during that
Yeah,
time,
like you
know?
felt like being happy, like you felt guilty for enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
other people were suffering. Right.
But we
Right.
want more people on the joyful side than on the like sad side. I try to
Of
remember
course,
it
yeah.
for myself. Like I didn't even realize until I read this book. It was like basically the history of American women or something. And like, I feel the same way sometimes of like, or even like female open micers that are like, these hipster mics are unsafe spaces. I'm like, bitch, go to fucking Harp Inn in Costa Mesa and be the only female comedian.
that's
A fucking unsafe.
It felt
true.
really dangerous in
You
an
know?
Irish bar. Yeah.
But like, I try to think, or when people are like, or white feminists are like, and this is like, it's like, yeah, dude, this is all a problem. But like, I live alone. I'm empowered. I'm on birth control. Like, I can get a credit card. My grandma could not until like 1970, whatever, get a credit card without a husband.
Right.
Like, people don't realize how recent that was and how much people have like fought for that.
Yeah.
And they didn't fight so that we can sit down and keep complaining about
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
like you take the liberties that have been earned for you
Yeah.
and you try to keep pushing them. But like, I know I struggle with myself because I am can be a very defeatist person. And like,
Yeah.
I was thinking, if I had a daughter, how would I raise her? I would not tell her every day it's going to be I know some people are like, no, tell them it's going to be harder so they have to work twice as hard. I'm like, let her just be and learn to work as a person. And then when those issues come up, or if those are feeling like, because I think it makes you it paralyzes you.
Yeah. No,
it's true. And also in Spain, I realized after these conversations, I was reading a Spanish newspaper. I think it's called El País. And it was basically saying that there's like so many Latino immigrants from Latin America who immigrate to Spain who literally deal with the same oppression from white people in Spain that they do in like the US, right? There's just way more Latinos in the US.
Yeah.
But in Spain, there's all these like brown and black people from Latin America coming, and they deal with like a lot of the same stigmas, and you could see them. I mean, there were so many like immigrants in Spain. And then I don't believe in like universe type stuff a lot, but I went to a museum, and randomly I didn't know there was this exhibit by this American artist who died of AIDS in the 80s, and he was this just like white gay dude from New York, but he basically took a lot of photos and did a lot of paintings in New York, New Mexico, and Mexico. But he had this painting where he basically wrote a monologue on the painting in paint. And of course, at that time, it was mostly just Spanish-speaking people in the gallery. So they're reading the translation, and the translation was not bad. It just is, you can't quite, there's just certain things that you can't get by translating. Like, for instance, Shakira's music.
Yeah.
She's just much better. She's just much better in Spanish.
Yeah, right.
She sounds awkward in English, but it felt like that exhibit was meant
Because it was written in English.
It was written in English. Yeah, he's this
Yeah.
American dude from New York. Felt like it was meant for me and my boyfriend. He grew up in the Bronx, and we were reading what he wrote, and it was like one big run-on sentence, and it was so amazingly powerful and angry.
Yeah.
And it was about the AIDS crisis, but he didn't exactly name the crisis. He
Oh.
wasn't naming like, oh, this is all about the AIDS crisis, but he was talking about people's disregard for gay men, for women, for trans people. It literally felt like it had been written the day before.
Oh, wow.
And not 30 years prior.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It was so amazing. And I took a picture of it, but then I found out that the program had it written in it. So I still have it, and I still
nice.
read it. And it's absolutely one of the like most moving pieces of art. And it made me feel like the trip was like, this is why you were meant to be on this trip for this exact exhibit.
That's amazing.
Because it was meant for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow, that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Sorry that I went off on that rant.
No, don't
Yeah.
be. No, that's really beautiful. I mean, I do want to make like, just like to make my position clear.
Yeah,
in case
yeah,
it
yeah.
gets like twisted. I just have this idea now, and it took me a long time to realize this, but I would just rather be happy than to be right. Being right is, first of all, being right is overrated to begin with. Like, it's just so stupid that people want to be, if somebody said this Pepsi is Coke, and you went, no, it's fucking Pepsi, and you argue about it, it's like, yeah, fuck it, whatever, it's Coke. I'm gonna move on with my life now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't why this whole like it's a should mentality. Like, things should be this way, and so I think I've kind of loosened up to be like. Sometimes I hear a fucked up joke and it's like, well, that joke is wrong, but do I want to laugh? Yeah, I want to laugh. So I'm going to laugh at that. You know, like, a lot of this, by the way, that I'm saying now are, you guys know, but I don't think I've said it on the podcast, but I was on some fucked up medication for years. So and I was on like 4 of the wrong medications for like 2 years, and I could not really laugh or cry. And I was numb, and you don't realize how much you miss laughing until you fucking lose the ability to laugh. So my favorite thing to do was laugh, and then I lost the ability. And now that I can laugh again, it's like, I don't want to lose this again. And I think that we actually, as a society, like, are starting to like think of laughter as kind of this like weaponized thing. Like, what are you laughing at? How can you laugh at that? You can do,
and
like
that violent.
yeah.
Like,
and it's like, I like laughter so much now that it actually, comedy has become my favorite genre, and drama is now second, because I lost the ability to laugh for a while. It's like, yeah, you can be right all the time, but sometimes you just got to say the wrong thing to laugh. That's just how I feel about that whole thing now. Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're laughing, I mean, sometimes I'm saying stuff to you in the car like that's so not PC.
Right. Yeah.
That it is honestly funny because it's like, it's almost just because it's just very
so
human.
It's also it's so fucking absurd sometimes. Like, there's no way I believe what I'm saying. Like,
also, like there was a guy last week at a mic that he was like, it was the thing of like, we were all dying laughing at him because he was so like wannabe edgelord.
Yeah.
And he thought he was killing with his material, but we were all laughing at him because it was like, you are a caricature of a person right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been quoting him all week because what he was saying was so ridiculous. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But some people would be like, wow, I guess you believe in co-sign his ideas. It's like, no, he was so stupid.
That's really, can I say something about that? I feel like I'm talking too long. Do you need
No,
to?
you're good. We're almost at time, but go ahead.
Okay, so I was actually, this is just to go off what you said, not really about the trans thing, but I was watching an old episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm from like 2008, and there was a character that is a Korean bookie, and he was talking with the accent, like he had the accent and everything, and I remember I was laughing so hard I was not laughing at the accent, I was laughing at like, this is so racist. I'm so glad we don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I was laughing
Yeah.
at this kind of this relief.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Of this relief, right? So like, I was thinking about this, and it's like, people say like, oh, you shouldn't laugh at old things because they're offensive. I'm like, actually, I think that you should. You should laugh because you should be happy that we don't do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
I'm laughing that we don't do that anymore. Like, isn't that funny that it used to be okay? So I think even like things like that, like, I don't know, I have my brain is now like medicated. I have like positive bias now, where like, instead of looking at something like from 2008 and going, it's fucked up that used to happen, you can like change your perspective to be like, I'm glad it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I feel like whatever you can do to think in your brain to be happy, you should do that, because if you think to yourself, I am awful, that is a lie. And if you think to yourself that you are awesome, that's also a lie, because your brain is not objective reality, right? So why don't you just choose the lie that makes you happier? Like that's kind of how I live my life now.
I like that. Well, let's all be happy and not right.
Yeah.
I think we are.
No, honestly, that's
yeah.
a great place to end. Like searching for your own happiness. Like obviously,
Yeah.
fighting for what's right when you have to fight, but also not letting that get in the way of living your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, before we end, Katie, is this shocking that you're hearing all this from me? Because you've known me for 8 years now, right?
No, yes and no. I think it's been there. You've just had a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
And none of your like views are shocked. I'm really happy that you're in a like really balanced place and that you found like what you want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And welcome to crone womanhood.
Oh, thanks.
Katie's in cronehood right
I'm
now.
in cronehood. Yeah.
Have we started the podcast yet? Like,
Yes.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's like, are you push play? Yeah, I'm sorry.
This was just the intro.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to promote before we go?
Well, just like look me up on Instagram, Tran. I've been just posting a lot of my videos and memes and stuff now. So yeah.
Cool. And misgender her if it's a compliment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you for being on, Robin.
Okay, thanks so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Living glam, living rock, living with Jonathan and Katy.